PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to the Grandmother Rae podcast. I am Rae Everlasting, and I am a pipe carrier grandmother of the Bird clan by lineage. My intention for this podcast is to assist each of us in living a more holistic life through sharing the wisdom of the grandmother and the ancestors. So gather round because the grandmother is in. And good morning. Or afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching this. We're live and it's morning currently on the Pacific coastline. And I'm so honored that you're here with me for this first ever Grandmother Rae podcast. What I wanted to start out with today is really what is a holistic life? And to get us started on that, I would like to share with you my why for living a holistic life. In 2005, I died. It wasn't the first time, it was the second time, but it was the most life-changing event. So I had a near-death experience in 2005, and as part of that near-death experience, I was really encouraged and invited to step into my inheritance. Now, my inheritance, I was aware of to an extent. I've learned more since then. I am a pipe carrier grandmother of the Bird clan by lineage, and I really didn't grow up knowing what that meant. The experiences that I had growing up prohibited me from learning very much from my grandmother who passed the pipe to me. So it wasn't until I chose to step into that inheritance that I began to learn what that meant. And for me, the grandmother is that person that is willing to walk between all the realms for the benefit of her tribe. And I've always seen all of humanity, all of the sentient beings on the planet as my tribe. And so that is my choice, to be of service to all sentient beings on the planet. Now, where the holistic life fits in with that is that in order for me to be of the best service to my tribe, it means that I function better and I'm able to offer more if I am taking care of my whole being. So what is a holistic life? You can look it up in the dictionary, which I love to do. I love to go on and research. Research is one of my things that I enjoy. And so I love to go into the dictionary and look up words and learn what they mean and learn where they came from and how to use them. So you can look up holistic, and Cliff Notes version, it's seeing the whole. But what I like to do is I like to get in touch with how I perceive a word, because for me, everything at its base is energy, and words are simply a translation of that energy. So I would encourage you to consider, what is holistic for you? What does that mean? What does that look like? What does a holistic life look like? One of the things that's been coming up, this topic has been coming up a lot lately. And anytime I see something occurring over and over and over again, it's like, the universe, God, whatever you choose to call it, that guiding force. When I'm seeing something over and over, or I'm hearing something over and over, it's like, okay, pay attention, right? So I have been hearing a lot from people lately about, how do I live my whole life? What I've noticed over the years, and maybe you've noticed this as well, is We have this box that we put ourselves in for our personal life. And we have this box that we put ourselves in for our work life. And we have this box that we put ourselves in for our public life. And this box that we put ourselves in for our private life. And how would life look differently if we chose to live holistically and incorporate all that we are into all those things that we do? Which kind of brings me into another thought process as far as when we're living a holistic life, are we allowing all of ourselves to be seen in all of the aspects of our lives? And if so, why not? If we're choosing to leave our spiritual practice for that time in the morning or evening when we do our meditation, etc., our spiritual practice, but we're not carrying that through the rest of the day, we're really separating that out. And in my experience, when we're separating things out, it means we live less than a whole life. Personal experience. So what does holistic life mean to you? And how does that look for you? And one of the topics that's been coming up a lot lately is, how do I incorporate my spiritual life where I really feel like I'm honoring who I am in my completeness, in my wholeness? How do I carry that through to the rest of my life, specifically business? And this has been coming up a lot lately. And how do I take those spiritual practices and weave those into my business, my career? For those of us who are entrepreneurs, how do I weave that into my entrepreneurial businesses? I know one of the things that's worked for me well over the years is to break down walls. I really strongly dislike labels. And I strongly dislike boxes. And, honestly, that's probably because I spent a lot of my life in boxes and under labels. And there's that part of me that just got to a point where I said, enough. I'm done with boxes. I'm done with labels. Why am I choosing to live that life? Because everything's a choice. Even when we don't feel like we have a choice, we do have a choice. So why am I choosing to do that? Well, it's familiar. It's what I grew up seeing. It's what I grew up knowing. It's what I've seen modeled for me. And so that's what I replicated. And as I made the choice after my near-death experience, when I started making the choice to begin breaking down those barriers and breaking down those labels, it really changed how I approached life itself. One of the things that feels very important to share at this point, we have, I say we, many of us have a point of view that we are here to do, that we create our identity by what we do. If I'm to ask, and I've done this in retreats before, who are you? Tell me who you are. There's always identifying labels. And when we're identifying by a label, it really limits our capacity. So when I'm considering a holistic life, when I'm considering what that looks like and what that feels like, for me, that's very expansive. When I'm considering the whole picture, who am I? And who do I choose to be? Because this is something, interestingly enough, I was just visiting with a friend about, is who do I choose to be in any given moment? And how do I create that reality? Well, one of the first things that comes to mind for me is what am I choosing? And what does that feel like? And this is a conversation that's been coming up a lot lately as well, is when I am creating my reality, am I feeling it? Am I experiencing it? Part of the holistic life for me is, how does it feel? Being human, we have these wonderful things called emotions. I know, not all of the emotions are great to experience. Not all of them are pleasant, but they are very useful for creating. So if I'm using those emotions, if I'm working with them to create, then it gives me the opportunity to consider, what does a holistic life feel like? So in this moment, let's take just a few breaths and let's consider, what does holistic mean to you? What does it feel like? If I say to you, what does your holistic life feel like? Take a breath, breathe it in, feel it. And then say yes. Thank you. More of that. For me, that is the shamanic way of creating. To consider, what is it that I choose to feel? What is it that I choose to experience? What does that feel like? What does it feel like to my body? What does it feel like to my mind? What does it feel like for my emotions when I'm feeling that sensation? Now, how does that translate into the rest of my life? For me, what I've noticed since making the choice to begin living more and more holistically, to begin allowing more and more of who I am to be present with me wherever I am. What I've noticed is these wonderful little magical, miraculous moments with people. And this can incorporate in business. I recently have had 2 discussions, well, just this week, with business people, both entrepreneurs. And in both situations, we were talking about, how do we take their entrepreneurial vision and allow it to expand and grow to that next stage that they're envisioning for it. And I was really, really excited to have this conversation with 2 different people from two different backgrounds with two different visions for the business that they've created and the business that they are choosing to expand into. In both situations, where I guided and where we agreed to travel in this conversation included things like, as part of my business, I want to see a win-win, whether it's my contract workers, whether it's the people that I serve, or myself. I choose to see it as a win-win. For me, that's very holistic minded. It's taking competition, which is fear, which is lack, scarcity mentality, and it's saying there is enough. This is an infinite universe. This is an infinite, abundant life that we live. There's enough for everyone, and everyone is here for me to collaborate with and work together with. One of the other topics that came up with both parties, which was very exciting for me, was the concept of creating a community feel. Community is something that's been coming up a lot for a lot of people for the last at least 3 years, if not longer. But it's really been pronounced in the last 3 years, this sense of community. And weaving that into a holistic lifestyle really expands the opportunities, because when we're in community, when we're seeing everyone as our tribe, then instead of limiting ourselves and limiting that other person, seeing them as competition, we're actually seeing them as how we can contribute to one another and create that situation for each of us that allows each of us to rise up. From my point of view, that is simply a part of taking my spiritual practice and that sensation that I experience when I'm in that spiritual practice, that sense of oneness, that sense of connectedness, that sense of being part of something so much more than just this physical body. And that sensation of the expansiveness of the universe and how limitless and infinite everything is that exists. And that bringing that sensation, those sensations, into whether it's my practice or my work as a business consultant or my work as an empowerment coach. And I can translate that very easily for those who are in business or working jobs. How do I bring that into my daily life? It's as simple as when I have that moment speaking to a client, speaking to a customer, speaking to a potential business partner. Am I remaining in my heart? Am I remaining in a space of collaboration and community and oneness, where I listen to what the other person is communicating and where they listen to what I'm communicating, and then we learn in that listening how we can contribute to one another, to the success of one another. and then we take action on that. And for me, it's very, very heartwarming to see how many entrepreneurs and how many business leaders and how many people of influence I've been seeing lately who have shifted from the old paradigm of doing business, the old paradigm of living this separate life, of living this life of competition. And how many people now are living this life or stepping into this life of collaboration, of community, of tribe, of coming together. So again, what does a holistic life feel like for you? And at this point in time, let's just take a moment with that. What is living holistically feel like for me? How do I incorporate all that I am in each moment? Be here now. This is a very effective tool for living a holistic life, and it's one that we have so many distractions in our lives. It's very easy to slip out of the present moment. It's very easy to get distracted by our phones, especially when we have all the notifications turned on. Those little, even if it's on silent, you've got the little vibration, and it pulls you out of the present moment and it takes you to something else. We have music, which can be very beneficial, but it can also be very distracting. We have so many distractions. So how do we practice a holistic life? Awareness and choice. Without awareness, there is no capacity to change. Without awareness that there's an option to live differently, how do we change? The awareness comes first. Once I have the awareness, then I have this superpower called choice. And with that superpower, then I can choose to do things differently. When I have awareness, when I give myself the gift of awareness. Oh, and by the way, huge roadblock to awareness and making new choices, judgment. When we're in judgment, it really locks us down. So one of the big things that I practice is acceptance. Acceptance of, I could have done that better, but that's what I did in the moment, and I'll choose something different in the next moment, and it's okay. So acceptance, self-acceptance, self-love, compassion, self-compassion. Hugely beneficial when we're striving to live a holistic life, because it allows us to give ourselves grace and know that everything in life is practice. And sometimes we do good in practice and sometimes we don't. And that's okay, because we always get to practice. So, back to my holistic life. Choosing to be present, have that awareness when I get distracted, and then make the choice. Am I happy in my distraction? And sometimes I am. Sometimes all I want to do is sit with my phone and play my little game where I'm blowing stuff up and, and have that kind of enjoyment. And sometimes I just want to veg out and watch some movies that really are just fun to watch. That's part of that acceptance thing again. But having that awareness with that acceptance allows me to then, in the moments where I choose to come back to the present moment and be fully there, then I have that capacity. There's total acceptance of the fact that I allowed myself to be distracted, and then there's total acceptance of the choice to either continue being distracted or to come back to the present moment. So if I were making kind of a list to go along with holistic life, acceptance would be a huge part of that. Awareness, top of the list. Acceptance and allowance. Allowing myself to be. I've heard it said before, we are not human doings, we are human beings. And I love that quote because I need that reminder. I need that reminder that it's not about what I'm doing in any given moment. It's about what I'm being that makes the impression. I believe it was Maya Angelou that said people will forget what you did for them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Yet another good reminder that we are human beings. And when I am present, fully present, wholly present, holistically present, then I have the capacity to offer my whole being to whoever I'm present with. Whether I'm in meditation, offering my whole being to the planet and everyone on it, or whether I'm with a partner or a friend or a new colleague. When I allow myself to be wholly present in every moment, I get to enjoy and experience the joy of living a holistic life. So our time is almost up. Amazingly enough, went by fast. I'll leave you with this. In each moment, be. And choose to be holistically you, because that's exactly what all of us need. So I look forward to visiting with you again next month. Thank you so much for being here for this first edition of the Grandmother Rae podcast. I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day. Namaste.